Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought. Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought leaders on issues impacting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Miss Ann Marie Sorrell.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lunch with Legacy Leaders. I am your host, Ann Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I want to apologize for some of the technical difficulties we were having at the beginning of the broadcast. I want to thank our sponsors for this broadcast, our sponsors, the Florida Lottery, as well as Broward Health. And we're going to go ahead and get right into our conversation. We have a special guest with us today. I am so amazed at this wonderful, powerful woman and what she has been able to do in support of Black businesses in Broward County. So we're going to welcome Ms. Shaheewa Jarrett Gelin. I think we're having some more technicalities. Give us one moment. Well, while we wait on Ms. Gelin to join us, for those of you who do not know, it is August 6th, and as of August 1, it is National Black Business Month. And so there's so many organizations that are celebrating National Black Business Month. So the whole point of National Black Business Month is that there are 31 ways in 31 days to support a Black-owned business. So if you have not, and if you are not making a conscious effort to support Black-owned businesses, make sure you do so. And there are several ways that you can identify those Black-owned businesses in your community. Of course, you can go to blackbusinessloop.com. That's blackbusinessloop.com to look for various businesses that are listed. And if you are a Black-owned business, you can list your business there for free, as well as any upcoming events that you have. You can list your event there for free as well. So that way people will know exactly where to find you. And it's interesting because Google also just recently launched a Black business listing initiative for Google. So if you are a Black-owned business, you may want to check out Google's most recent effort in support of Black-owned businesses. It was a great time for them to roll out this initiative, so definitely check that out. You can just Google it. What is today? Let me see. What are we highlighting today for National Black Business Month? Give me 1 second, and we're trying to communicate backstage to see what's happening. No. Okay, give us one moment, guys. I apologize. I don't know if it's the weather or what. I know it's pouring like cats and dogs where I am. In the meantime, however, I'm going to go over to Black Business Loop's page, and we're going to look at what we're highlighting today as a part of the 31 Days, 31 Ways effort. And if you don't follow Black Business Loop on social media, feel free to do so. We have highlighted HBCUs, we've highlighted venture Black farmers and Black wine companies. We have highlighted Black banks, Black bookstores. So again, if you go to blackbusinessloop.com, you can actually see a list of 31 days and 31 ways of how you can support a Black-owned business. So hopefully we will be on in a second.
Wow. Hello. I guess I'm on. We need to get Ann Marie in here as well. But I am happy to be here with you all this afternoon. My name is Shaheewa Jarrett Gelin, and I am the founder and current president of the Broward County Black Chamber of Commerce. So I'm extremely pleased to be here today with Ann Marie and Lunch with Legacy Leaders. As Ann Marie was saying, I guess I'll just say a few words before she gets back on the broadcast. As she was saying, it is National Black Business Month, which is a special month for our chamber for many reasons, right? Not only does it give us yet another reason to showcase Black businesses in our community and the importance of having a Black business in the community. But obviously, it's the month we were founded. I see you're back.
Hi. I don't know what just happened. I was trying to log in and do some troubleshooting on my end, but clearly I kicked myself off when I was trying to do help with the troubleshooting. So
okay.
My apologies.
No problem. Look, we're all living in this new virtual world with technology and platforms, so things happen. We have to roll.
So my apologies. I was, also trying to talk about Black Business Month to let people know what that was as well. So thank you. Did you? Where did you leave off?
No, I was just saying that, I kind of took off where you were when you were talking about National Black Business Month, and I kind of finished just saying that obviously it's special for our chamber because this just gives us yet another reason to kind of showcase Black businesses. But obviously it's the month of our founding. I specifically launched the chamber on August 13th of 2018. So it's a special month for us in that way as well.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations. So again, everyone, my apologies for the technical difficulties we have been experiencing today, but nonetheless, we're here. We're going to continue the broadcast. We have a lot to discuss with Shaheewa. And for those of you who do not know Shaheewa, she serves as a general counsel and vice president of compliance for the Gelin Benefits Group, LLC, an insurance brokerage and advisory company. In this capacity, she provides legal advice and ensures compliance with federal and state health care laws. In addition, she's worked as a federal litigator for 17 years. In 2017, she incorporated the Black Chamber of Commerce, the Broward Black Chamber of Commerce, as she recognized that the county needed an advocate for the small Black business owner. The chamber officially launched in August, as she just said, August 13th, 2018. Currently has over 130 members and is quickly growing. The chamber is focused on access to capital, advocacy, connecting its members to decision makers in the public and private sectors, and educating its members and the community about the value of certifications. The chamber is determined to expand the profit margins of Black businesses in the area with an aggressive and innovative agenda. Shaheewa has received numerous awards and serves on several community boards, including the Broward County Small Business Development Advisory Board, OIC Strategic Integration, and the League of Women Voters Broward Education Fund. She's a graduate of Florida State University, go Noles, with a bachelor with a Bachelor of Science degree in political science, and earned a Juris Doctorate from the University of Miami School of Law. I mean, I don't know how you handle that. You know, Knowles and you, okay. In 2009, she received a certificate in nonprofit management from Duke University. Welcome, welcome, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
No problem. Thank you. And I want to, just get right into it. So tell us about the Broward Black Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Well, a little bit about our history. I incorporated the chamber in May of 2017 during National Small Business Week. Obviously, that was purposefully. And as I said, launched it in August of 2018 during National Black Business Month. The chamber has several objectives, but as you read off in the bio, we focus on three primary areas, right? Advocacy, education for our members and the broader community, because we do offer a lot of educational sessions and workshops that are open to anyone in the community, and promotion. We love to promote our businesses. I'm sick of hearing people say, "Oh, I don't know where to find a Black business." You can't use that excuse when you're dealing with me. We are very assertive in getting our members certified with government entities so that we can boost utilization. I looked around the nation for examples when I was researching before I started the chamber. And I often talk about the example of Atlanta and Maynard Jackson. Atlanta would not be what it is today without him being the strong mayor he was. And in saying, before they built that huge government project, the airport, in saying that, no, we were going to utilize minority businesses. Because he stood strong on that, out of that one project, multiple millionaires, Black millionaires, were birthed from that project. And so that's why I emphasize government contracting, and then we can focus on boosting utilization. So currently, we have about 150 members, so we are growing with many different industries represented, law, insurance, accounting, psychology, construction, dentists, trades like AC tech and real estate executives. So we run the gamut. And believe it or not, we're about 50-50, with regard to women-owned businesses and male-owned businesses. So, it's wonderful to see the businesses blossom and working with our members. So that's a little bit about the chamber.
That's awesome. And I know you touched on this a little bit, why you started, but I want you to dive a little bit more into why you started the Broward Black Chamber and why you believe it's important to have one. We get that question and it's just what it is. Why is there a BET Awards? Why is there a Black this versus a Black that? So why did you start the Black Chamber, and why, what's the value of having a Black chamber when there's so many other chambers?
Right. So I'll start off with the two main reasons I started. So in 2016, I was very active with a nonpartisan group in gathering people to do, vote-themed events, getting out the vote with a lot of different Black organizations. And it brought me to many different neighborhoods across Broward County that I hadn't been in. Unfortunately, it gave me the opportunity to see the blight, the joblessness, boarded up, businesses and buildings in these communities. And so that really sat heavy on me, in conjunction with the fact that I started doing some digging and research and found that 38% of our children, Black children in Broward County, live in poverty.
38%. Wow.
Yeah. 38%. And you said, wow. I mean, that's exactly how that felt to me. It tugged at my heart, because I was like, that specifically speaks to the lack of opportunity, lack of jobs, etc. Couple that with the fact that, my husband was starting his business, and I saw firsthand, despite your experience and expertise and being in an industry for many, many years and having worked, right, for some of the largest firms, when you become that small business owner, you're struggling, and a Black business owner, you're struggling with the stereotypes that are associated with Black businesses and trying to get other types of contracts, like government contracts. And so I felt that we needed, first and foremost, an advocate for our Black businesses. So at the time, I'm doing the research, trying to figure out what's going on in Broward, and no one in Broward was advocating for Black businesses or Black business friendly laws, as you will, or procedures and laws on a county-wide basis before I came along. And what do I mean by that? I mean, fighting for cities or the county to do, or large anchor institutions to do disparity studies so that we can understand if their vendor base is diverse. And if it's not, then we can do something to correct the disparity study. Yeah, obviously the majority community is not going to do that. You're getting money, they're making money, they're fine, but that's something that we need to advocate for. And we need an active group advocating for Black businesses at the county as well as the city levels, right? A lot of people forget that we have 31 municipalities in Broward County, and they spend a lot of money. I always give this example, an unexpected example of the city of Tamarack. Last year, when we did a tour on getting certified, their procurement director announced that they, in fact, spent $41 million that year. And it surprises a lot of people because Tamarack is very small, but we have several examples around the county where cities are spending a lot of money, and we need to get in on that and make sure that it's being spent in an equitable fashion. And then you have the large anchor institutions such as a Broward College, Broward Health, Broward County Government, Broward Sheriff's Office. And who's going to liaise with them and say, hey, what are your vendor diversity numbers like? How can we partner with you to ensure that public monies, right? Public monies are being spent equitably with Black companies, because at the end of the day, we want our Black companies to expand and grow so they can hire more in our community, which will then take care of a portion of our unemployment and underemployment kind of woes. And so advocacy is key to unbundling contracts, sheltering contracts, advocating for less restrictive language in contracts and RFPs that come out. So that's kind of some of the reasons I started it. I also tell people, because, I get this question as well. And I say, it's important for us to gather as a business community so that we can do things together, right? See how we can help each other collectively to resolve some of our issues in the community. And what better way to say, let's gather together with the business minds, people who own businesses, who have wealth and money to be able to invest and to groom the next generation of entrepreneurs and inspire them. That's important. So we have an ability to do that. And then lastly, I'll say promotion. Creating new relationships and opportunities with private companies and partners to diversify their supply chain. We can't forget all the companies that are headquartered in Broward County. How are you diversifying your supply chain? Not just philanthropy. People love to tell me about philanthropy. This is about utilizing our Black businesses in your supply chain, which builds wealth in our community. And I think we as people have to understand we can't wait for things to go wrong to unite. We have to try to move the ball along. We have to be proactive. And so in creating a chamber, we can craft our own agenda, and we're organized so that we get the long-term procedural and policy changes implemented. That is what our community needed and needs. As we have seen, working individually in our own silos has not reaped the benefits. And so it's time to do something different. We need to unite. We need to create these groups so that we can show strength in numbers. And quite frankly, every other group does it. In my research, I found out they had a Bangladeshi Chamber of Commerce. And let's be clear, there are a lot more African Americans in Broward than Bangladeshis, but they understood we have to gather together if we want to get things done for our business community. And so that's why I started the chamber.
Absolutely. Well, and those are all such great points and so needed. And I remember before you started the chamber, looking back at the Miami-Dade County Chamber of Commerce, particularly I became familiar with that chamber when Bill Diggs was there, and he was just such a vocal advocate for businesses and opportunities, especially on major projects. I know Eric is doing his thing down in Miami now, since he's been, the president of chamber. So it's so important to see what you're doing in Broward County, and you're filling that space that had not been there before. So how has just everything, COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, upcoming elections, 2020, let's just say, how has 2020 impacted your members as well as the growth of your membership.
Okay, so this has been a really obviously interesting year. So we saw a boost in February. It's Black History Month. So I guess we tend to focus as a people on, oh, how can I support Black organizations? I really want us to get to doing this like 365, right?
Okay.
But so we saw a boost there. And then unfortunately, with the brutal murder of George Floyd at the hands of the police, I really think, these horrid events, force us to look real deeply in what we're doing and how we're supporting each other. And obviously there was a focus because of that incident on police brutality and reforming that system. But then obviously America now and our community is looking wider and broader to say, well, these are obviously not the only issues, because then obviously you have the COVID-19 that is demonstrating the gap, the health gap, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in Broward County, we're experiencing that as well, as we are disproportionately hospitalized and dying from coronavirus in Broward County. And so you kind of have these compounding factors forcing us to look at the community to look at the disparities in health and the criminal justice system and education, and now a little bit in the business sense in industry, right? And saying, well, are your boards diverse? And that is an important question, right? Your board of directors. Is your employee base diverse? Because obviously, if you're facing the world and you have customers, you should have diversity in there because your customers are going to be a diverse space. But what I like to add in there and get people to think of, which is often neglected, for large corporations as well as government entities, what does your vendor base look like? That's what you have to come back to Black business. And if you understand the history of Black business and innovation and Black excellence, how we literally made something out of really nothing, right? Then and you understand the wealth gap and how that's created by the lack of ownership, right? Owning our own job, but then also the lack of being able to create our own jobs. And so then that allows people to understand that we have to start right there. Where is the spending going? Where is that money going? If it's not going to our community at all, or at an extremely disproportionately low rate, well, then it's no wonder I saw, right, the blight I mentioned earlier, right? And adults riding around the community without jobs, etc., because none of the money is being spent with us. And so we have to look at not only diversifying it, doing the disparity studies, but being very focused and specific about that. And so that's what I want to interject into that conversation. So I'm glad for the introspection and the conversation, but there needs to be some definite action around correcting that supply chain and making it more diverse. And I'll tell you, even in this environment, some people still don't want to talk about that. But with regard to us, I think in this moment, more of us are saying, yeah, we need to come together. We need to unite. There is a purpose for having a business entity that advocates on a consistent basis for us. And so we actually saw a boost in our membership for June. It spiked dramatically. And so obviously we were happy to welcome new members. A lot of Black business owners joined, but we also had some other kind of anchor institutions that I had reached out to before and I'd spoken to before, and the move wasn't made. But now, I guess with all that's going on, they decided to go ahead and make that financial commitment. And so for us, it's like, yeah, join. And we want you as a member, but how can we partner so that your supply chain looks a little bit different and a little bit more equitable?
Absolutely, because membership is just one thing, but it needs to be a win-win where they're definitely getting suppliers, and then your members are getting contracts.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, I agree with that. No, that's really good. That you guys are able to grow through this, and hopefully it's not just a moment, but a continuous growth. And hopefully even, for the month of August, as we're celebrating Black Business Month, you'll continue to see a spike in your membership and participation as well.
No, exactly. And that's why I try to push too. Let's not just make this a moment, right? Or we'll travel this way again. We'll have to learn the lesson again. Let's sit in it, understand it, and make some truly impactful, long-lasting change not treat it as a moment. This needs to be a movement.
Absolutely. Now, and I know you touched on some of this already through the advocacy that you do. Since these different 2020 crises that have been taking place,
Yeah.
are there any specific initiatives or programs that the chamber is doing to specifically help businesses, or any
Well,
partnerships you have, or?
right. Well, I will say this. We've had, everybody's talking about businesses having to pivot, but obviously as a chamber, we've had to pivot, because I came into 2020. It's like, oh, we had our plans, living our best life as a chamber and whatever, and coronavirus. So we had to quickly get up to speed. Obviously, initially it was, what is a coronavirus, and pumping that information out to our members in the community. How do you deal with it? How do you stay safe? Then the next phase was funding. Okay, you're suffering. There was a, kind of a shutdown in essence. So how do you get your funding? What's the bridge loan? What's the EIDL? Kind of doing those sessions. And what's the PPP? So now we're in a forgiveness session. So we did some sessions on that. What are your best accounting practices to ensure that, your loan will in fact be forgiven? And so that continues. But we also tap into some of the relationships that we've had before, and that, I cultivated before the pandemic. So actually this week, in kicking off National Black Business Month, we had a COVID-19 and Black business, turning setbacks into comebacks.
Mhm.
And so we had, I don't think there's enough information out there with regard to pushing tech and how you can infuse tech into your business to really exponentially grow your profits. And so we have often partnered with Dr. Ford from the FIU Mission to Market. He's a Mission to Market manager down there, and he just brings a wealth of knowledge. He's talking about patents that are for free or reduced cost, and specifically related to getting into testing and tracing, et cetera, with regard to COVID-19. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. And so he shared that wealth of knowledge with us on Tuesday. And then, just tapping into some of our business owners who've been able to say, yeah, this is kind of one service I offered, but I was able to pivot and give those real life examples there. And so we had one of our members, Fred Harris, participate in that. And in, talking about the different things that he had to do in order to make sure that he was ready and foresaw what was coming. So he talked about just what you mentioned, creating partnerships, reaching out, being strategic about what you could offer, to make sure that there was still some revenue coming in, despite, the difficulties and the changes we're going through. So we'll continue to do that, to provide examples of how you can pivot. But once again, I go back to, I think, our greatest focus, which is the advocacy. I've been aggressively reaching out to these anchor institutions to say, hey, yes, I know maybe some of your spending has changed, but I know there's some buying going on. What are you buying? What's upcoming? What is in the forecast, so I can get my members ready? I'm making sure that, I'm a resource. So I'm signing up for all kinds of lists out there that I'm finding. So we're in fact getting RFPs and notices. And when I find that one of our members is in that industry, I'm directly emailing them, hey, take a look at this. Can you take advantage of that? Will you be able to bid, etc.? So I'm just being hyper vigilant and making sure we understand what opportunities are out there. And of course, I'm still advocating for those new opportunities. Well, I'm always shopping my list. I always have my list with me to say, okay, well, what are you buying? And if you're not, here are a couple, vendors. This is what they're selling. How can you work that into your supply chain? Because at the end of the day, Ann Marie, we're talking about the very survival of small business at this point. And I don't think anybody, I feel so anxious about that. And I don't think people understand the gravity of what can happen if we don't allow and help our small businesses, and especially our small Black businesses, to survive. There was a study that was recently done by the University, UNC Santa Cruz in California. And they estimated that there was a 41% plunge in Black businesses by mid-April, right? That was back months ago, in mid-April. I haven't seen any recent numbers yet, but the point is that is huge. When you compare it to the majority, the same study noted that the majority for white businesses, the plunge was only 17%. So my point is we have to get our anchor institutions to understand that they have to spend locally with whatever dollars they're spending, and it needs to be spent in an equitable way. We cannot leave the Black community, the Black business community behind. It's not acceptable.
No, you're absolutely right. And I was on a recent call, and I'm not sure if you're familiar that the three main South Florida chambers started a South Florida Business Council.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, yes, I was on a call, and it's interesting because it was, I think the call maybe have had about 70 or so people on it. I think there may have been 4 or 5 of us that were Black.
Yeah, I was on the call as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily we had a few of us to raise some conversation in the chat about equity, and just, bringing our concerns to the forefront, and like, okay, let's not sidetrack or leave us out of discussion. So I think it's so important that we have these conversations, but not just with ourselves, but that as we're at different tables, that we're also interjecting the conversation and ensuring that we're holding other organizations accountable, to ensure that equity is happening, that opportunities are being dispersed and talked about and shared equitably.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more. It's about speaking up in those instances, wherever you may be, because, people are kind of on their track and thinking about, their goals. And we have to remind people that, talent, innovation, excellence, cures for whatever, disease we may be dealing with at the time, or the latest huge company to possibly be an Amazon, knows no zip code. Like, it can come from anywhere. And so you cannot discriminate and leave certain communities behind just because it's easy for you to do because it's not in your world. We have to practice equity, and something that we have to push as a conversation. Obviously, it's something that we do on a regular basis as a Black chamber, right? But other chambers, not so much. So I view that as our duty to add that to the conversation wherever I am.
Absolutely. So with the current situation and environment where Black businesses, or businesses period, but Black-owned businesses, now there are some who are definitely thriving in this environment. Yeah. They've pivoted, or they've, because of the services that they offer, they've been able to scale their companies.
Right.
But for those who are not so fortunate and says, well, I hear this conversation about a chamber, because there's still a lot of people who are not familiar with chambers of commerce, period, and the whole purpose and reason and value of being a part of a chamber, right? So there's that part of the community who they're out here running businesses and they're doing their thing, but they're not associated with chambers or organizations like chambers, and some just don't know and are not aware. And then some who do learn a little bit and says, well, what's the value for me? I think you've eloquently discussed a lot of value that you bring to small Black businesses, or Black businesses, period. But if they say, well, I can't afford a membership, I can't, how can you now communicate the value of why it's important to join a chamber? How do you make that argument?
Right. I think now more than ever, it should be clear why a chamber is necessary, because that is in essence your business home, right? Your hub, where you should be able to not only connect with Black businesses to be, for you to patronize them, but for them to patronize you. So you build business connections there. But it's also a way for you to get the latest information on how to better yourself as an entrepreneur, right? We always need to be growing and learning and moving forward. And it's also a source of information, because there is an information gap. So it's a source of information as to what's going on in the greater community. Like, where are the opportunities? How can I, make money? And not just chasing after like the individual customer or client, but, what other larger contracts are available for me. So there's a wealth of information that chambers provide. And I will say this, I get it. For us, as you study the revenues of the average Black company, it's like $58,000 according to the SBA's last study. And so, people are holding on to their money. It is hard to get money out of the hand of, Black people, period, in general, when it comes to these types of things, because it's like there needs to be in like almost an immediate exchange of value. And you say to them, well, let's sit down and let's talk about the value of a chamber to you individually. So one, when you join a chamber, you're investing in your business. So say, for instance, you need a contact because you're trying to pull a permit, or you're trying to open an office somewhere in the city, etc. You're calling around, you can't get through to anybody. Yeah, you got a chamber. We've helped our members connect with individuals inside various cities to move forward their certifications, their permits, etc., to get that moving. So there's a benefit to you, their business benefit. Or if you're working on a contract and you feel like there's restrictive language in the RFP, are you gonna call up and get a hold of the procurement person to make your case? Probably not. But as a chamber where you have members, right, you have the strength of your members behind you, and that's why membership is important. And being organized and having an agenda is important. You call up and say, well, hey, there's this particular RFP on the street. There's some restrictive language there. This is why it's restrictive, XYZ. You make the argument. You're more likely to get some movement there than you individually going in and saying, hey, single individual business owner, there's a problem. But then there's the contract and opportunity matching that a chamber does that you just don't get on your own. So, you may see a listing, for RFP or some other opportunity on BidSync or on the website. But there are other things called no bid contracts that aren't on those systems. You don't know about them, right? Because we're behind the scenes advocating and finding out, okay, for each entity, that number is different. For some, it's anything under 75,000. For some, it's anything under 30,000. The point is 75, 30,000, that's a good chunk of money for a small business owner. They'd be glad to bid on something or submit a letter of inquiry for that particular contract. But if you don't know about it, you're not even in the game. And the point of the matter is, I work as a chamber leader in cultivating those relationships, so I know about those opportunities. And like I was saying earlier, we get those inquiries in. I'm emailing our chamber members who are in that industry directly, so they have access to opportunities that the general public simply doesn't have. In addition to that, a lot of people coming from, the New Yorks, Atlantas, the Pittsburgh, from out of town, they're very conscious about their spending, right? They come into town looking for a chamber to say, how can I support a Black business? I have a wedding. I want a Black photographer. I want a Black florist, and, what have you. I want to, go out to, family reunions. We want to go to a Black restaurant while we're here. We get those inquiries on our website. And I'm like, hey, here's our directory. Look in our directory. So being listed on our directory as a member is a benefit. And we get calls from all over the country when people call in, like I said, for weddings and family reunions. It's what we do as Black people when we travel, and they want to support Black businesses. So then you get those additional opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't. And then I will say this. Lastly, regardless of whether you're a member or not, chambers work on, changing policies, procedures, and systems that work against the utilization of Black businesses, right? So if I worked to unbundle, which I did, earlier this year, to unbundle a contract that was going to go to a large company, I was able to, point out the issues with doing that and say, hey, there's some smaller projects here that you can break off that some of the smaller companies would be able to handle. Why not do that? And we were able to unbundle about $9 million in projects. Now, I can't go, hey, chamber member, you get that. No, those are contracts, $9 million worth of contracts that were not going to be available to anyone, right? It was going to be one company. They were going to get it, and they get to choose who they want to work with. Instead, now $9 million worth of projects and opportunities are back out there in an RFP that you now get to compete for, and you're not even a member of a chamber. When you do, when we lobby or advocate rather for entities to do disparity studies like the school board has, like the city of Miramar has, and the city of Fort Lauderdale is in the middle of doing. And we push other cities to do, right? When they find, because it's inevitable, that there are disparities and they have a low percentage of African Americans that they're actually utilizing, then they have to correct those disparities, right? They have to set goals, and they have to be very specific in those goals. They're targeted towards working with African American businesses. It's not just going to be with chamber businesses. No, it's any Black business that they're going to have to work with. That's qualified. They can fulfill the needs of that particular RFP or whatever. But they're going to benefit from us advocating for equity and disparity studies and policies and procedures that bring in diversity. So there's a benefit to the general, Black business population, even if they're not members. And that's the reason for joining, because there's obviously, you join for selfish reasons. You want your business to thrive and you want to have opportunities, but you want the world of opportunities to open up for all Black businesses as well. Because guess what that means? Black businesses are growing, right? So, hey, they could be your client, right? The growing Black businesses. And so when we all grow, because there's more than enough, there's an abundance out there. When we all grow, it's better for all of us. So that's what I would say. And lastly, I just say the education piece, because a lot of us think that, chambers are for, I need to mention this, the lawyers and the accountants and the engineers and the architects. And, it's not for me. It's not for my catering business or my company. It's not for my, my detailing company, what have you. And so I let people talk and I go, that is really amazing. Actually, it is, because the county actually spends money on that, right? They, have to have, lunches and events and things of that nature. So there's a benefit to going through our program, where you can get expedited in your certification process. And we have MOUs with Miami-Dade County Public Schools and contacts with Broward County Public Schools to kind of help you through that process. But a chamber is a place for literally every business. And it's about understanding the world of opportunity out there. And if you kind of close yourself off from that, then you're limiting the growth potential of your business.
Absolutely. And I really hope that anyone listening to this who may not have understood the power that chambers of commerce hold, and I'm not talking about just Black chambers of commerce.
Yeah.
The power and influence. That's why there's a U.S. Chamber of Commerce. That's why there's the Florida Chamber of Commerce controls a lot of political decisions that are made in this state, i.e. reopening.
Well, they put that, or the very slow nature by which we shut down.
Right. So you really have to understand, I really want people to understand the influence and power behind chambers in general.
Yeah.
And if we put that energy and I need to do better myself. If we put, and I've just had to learn, and that was one of the things that I made it my duty to, I wanted to join a bigger chamber, and not just at the regular level. I wanted to be at a trust level, because I really want to understand the inner workings from the power structure of a chamber. So I became a trustee and then a board member of a chamber. And when I tell you, when I saw what I've witnessed as far as the power that comes from that level of involvement, and how powerful the chamber body is to a community, it's so impactful. So we have so much power in South Florida, in Broward County, Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach. We're getting there, Palm Beach, to support our Black chambers and really continue to help them rise. So that way, when something goes before a governing body, an elected body, if they have the approval, the endorsement of the business community, i.e. the chamber, it holds so much weight.
It does. But Ann Marie, the point is because of the membership. So you have people joining, you have people being active. And when you have those numbers, obviously this governing body, the typically elected officials, they're looking at, this entity that is tied into the business community, right? And however members strong they are, and they're like, okay, we have to answer to this community. This, once again, it goes back to an organized, entity that has an agenda and that they actively advocate for. And, I will tell you this, before I started the chamber and just doing, regular business and trying to, work from that angle, as I'm meeting with different people, to talk about my business, whatever, I'm not seeing us walking through those doors to talk to these powerful people, elected officials and other people. And obviously that was another impetus. I'm like, where are we? Like, what's going on? So you hit it on the head. It's having the power of all those members behind you when you make a statement and say, we are for XYZ or we are against XYZ.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to my last two questions, and this will take us into it, and I mentioned this to Eric when he was on, and I'm sure we'll have someone from the Palm Beach Black Chamber on soon. Especially it's National Black Business Month. I think it'll be a great promo time.
Yeah.
I would love to see you guys work out, and even if it's a similar concept to and maybe it's being done through the South Florida Black Prosperity Alliance. I'm not sure. But I would love to see a similar concept to this South Florida Business Council that was created by the three major chambers, where we have a regional approach to advocating for our businesses regionally. So I just want to put that in your spirit and kind of see what your thoughts are on doing some type of joint. I don't know if it's a joint, I wouldn't say a joint membership because I think you all got to have your own membership to operate, but some type of joint council and again, I don't know if it's the alliance that's going to do that, but what are your thoughts?
No, look, Ann Marie, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think when I started this chamber, one of my goals was not to do business as usual, with, this organization kind of down, doing what they're doing, and this one over here doing what they're doing. So when I tell my business owners that you need to partner up, do joint ventures, expand yourself, expand your capacity by working with each other, I'm not just preaching it. I believe in doing it, right? So from the very beginning, I will tell you, I've reached out and, try to bring in, different people. I will mention this, that like the Minority Builders Coalition, we have someone from Brian Johnson is on our board, because my point is let's bring in these different entities that have been working on, in different ways on a similar, business kind of focus, and let's work together. So from the very beginning, I did reach out. I actually, before I started the chamber, I reached out to the founder of the chamber in Palm Beach, Paul Nunnally, and spoke with him about his experience. And I reached out to Bill Diggs, because I know him from back in the day when he was CEO of the Miami-Dade Chamber, and kind of talked to him about that experience. And then once we launched, kind of, tried to, bring everybody around. And once again, I think with COVID-19 and everything that's going on, I think that there's kind of a renewed, kind of vision. And I think that, it's a generational thing. I think, I kind of tend to look at things in a more collaborative fashion. It's like, why can't we do this together? There is literally abundance out there for all of us. So we should work together as chambers. We should have a regional agenda so that we can wield more power here, especially in Tallahassee with regard to our agenda, and making sure that there's support and funding, et cetera, from Tallahassee down to South Florida to help our Black businesses survive and thrive, because that's of interest and it should be a priority. But then you have the fact that South Florida in and of itself is such an important financial area for the nation. So my point is, coming together as well to be able to have an impact on the federal level with our senators and representatives, et cetera, and pushing that agenda as well to say, hey guys, we are an important financial powerhouse down here in South Florida. We're important to the entire nation. And you have XYZ amount of Black businesses that we represent. we need X, Y, and Z to help these businesses not only survive but thrive. That's the type of unity that I'd love to see, and have kind of pitched a couple of things, in the past, and so we'll see if they'll come to fruition. But no, I'm we're on the same page, because I just think when you're talking, you're discussing, you're sharing information, and then you're working in a unified way, you just get more done, Anne Marie. You're able to travel that much further when you work in a unified front. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. And I see that move happening. I saw it when the three economic development organizations, the BDB, the Beacon Council, and the Alliance, had to come
Yeah.
together to do the Amazon application.
Right.
The application to have Amazon consider South Florida, not just Miami,
Right.
as a second headquarters. So I think since then, the other organizations have definitely been organizing and collaborating to focus on this regional approach. And I definitely don't want to see our communities left out of, because we're already not that much at those tables. So I definitely don't want to see our communities left out of that conversation. I'm always amazed when people say, "Oh my God, you work in 3 counties." I'm like, yeah, I have a regional approach to my business.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
exactly. No, exactly. Most of our members, and a lot of our members do, and that's why, quite frankly, we push whatever's happening in Palm Beach, we push it out to Miami, wherever the opportunities, we push it out. But I think for us, sometimes it takes time to not be, territorial or think in the old ways, or really, sometimes these other chambers, because they're majority chambers, they have the money, they have the staffing to kind of sit back and do that kind of, long-term thinking. Whereas, some other chambers, it's like, well, the president or the person running it may be, a city official, or someone who has their own business. So they kind of get pulled away from that. But I think now, right. But I think now, as we usually do with what's going on in this time of crisis, I'm just glad to see that we're understanding the need to share information, to be open, to collaborate in any way that we can. And I'm glad Eric mentioned that South Florida Black Prosperity Alliance, because I think that's important. That's an important layer. So you have the economic, kind of business chambers involved from all 3 counties. And then you have organizations that are dealing with the social justice issues, the education issues, the health issues, the criminal justice issues also involved. So we can kind of tackle these issues all together and in a regional fashion, right? In addition to that, it's going after the dollars that everybody claims they're committing to our community that we never see. So it's like, here is a coalition of organizations that actually, they're on the ground, they're touching the people, they're doing the work. Fund this. And I think there's power in that. And so, I was all for it, pushed for it from the beginning of our founding, and I'm looking forward to us doing more and more together.
Absolutely. So it's National Black Business Month. You already talked about a program you had, I believe, yesterday, to kick off National Black Business Month. What else do you have coming up as a chamber to celebrate the month?
Okay, so yeah, we kicked it off on Tuesday with our COVID-19 and Black business, kind of doing this turning setbacks into comebacks. And we have another event coming up on the 18th where we focus on procurement, and we're going to be featuring Broward College and their district director of supply diversity, Anthea Pennant. She's on our board, and like I said, it takes time for these large, for these large entities to kind of implement the changes that, creates that institutional change. But she's very committed to doing that. And so I wanted her to come on and share some of the recent changes that are happening within their system, as well as share the new registration system that they have that will now be tracking race with regard to the spend, that will now be going into not just the spending with the RFPs and the larger spending, but, on what we'll call the no bid opportunities and how those will be tracked as well. Because that's what I'm concerned with. Is like, are you going to track everything? Because people go, oh, we're tracking XYZ, but are you tracking everything? The no bid situations. So that's going to be very informative. And, obviously, I mentioned before, we have a really big focus on that government spend because it is in the billions and we need to be getting our fair share of that. We'll also be doing what we did last year with kind of featuring our Black businesses. Last year we kind of had pictures and highlights of their businesses with them talking about, their experience as a Black business owner, how it felt to be a Black business owner. And it was very eye-opening, before we got into this year, for people to talk about some of the very real experiences that they had and discrimination they had faced, and kind of despite it all, they pushed on to make sure their business was successful. So that's what we're trying to focus on: Black business excellence, and where you can find that readily, and try to get people in the habit of learning about new businesses, but then getting in the habit of spending with Black businesses and making that a regular part of their routine and not just something they do for the month of August. We'll also be hosting a watch party, right? It's gonna be my first one. Watch party, which on something I've shared the video before, but I just think that it's critical that we give people an opportunity to watch, through this watch party, to watch it live. It's a racial equity training that was conducted with the Broward County Board of Commissioners on June 18th. And these two women that conduct this session, they go in depth and they truly break down each and every facet that the system discriminates against Black people, whether it's in employment, it's in vending, et cetera. They really break it down. So there's no tiptoeing around, well, they weren't qualified, things that we had, they weren't experienced. No, it really breaks it down, and it's something that needs to be shared far and wide. And so I'm committing to doing that and having a watch party so people can sit down and take in this information, because, a part of that is the only way we change these systems sometimes is to change the hearts of the people that are, implementing the systems, that are running the system, right? Obviously, there are procedural changes. I get that. But, at the end of the day, these systems are run by people, and we have to address that. We have to have people that are educated and understand the systematic nature of racism, but how individuals act to perpetrate that, right? And to get rid of the prejudices that are based on stereotypes that are formulated from, some fantasy, TV, etc., and focus on the facts. And these two women break that down. And so I thought that was, just something that we're going to have to share in that watch party. And lastly, we're going to have, because we're still in the time of COVID-19 and we want people to be safe, we did get a generous donation of masks from a couple of sources this year. And so we're going to be giving out KN95 masks, and we'll be announcing when people can kind of pick that up, kind of as our give back to business owners and others in the community, because we want people to be safe during this time.
That is awesome. We're going to wrap up, and you kind of talked about this already on government and corporate responsibility to the Black community and in our Black community, but I definitely want to just have you emphasize that it's not enough to just, make a corporate statement, that, there is definitely responsibility to our businesses and to our community.
No, absolutely. If you're going to operate in a community, it is your corporate responsibility to be reflective of that community, right? So as I mentioned earlier, what does your board of directors look like? Is it diverse? Are you hearing diverse perspectives at the very top of your company? What does your employee diversity look like, right? Do you have those voices in the middle to help you navigate all of that? But then obviously, as I mentioned earlier, your supply chain. If you're going to operate in this community, you should be buying local, and that local spend should be equitable. You should be doing business with Black companies. And, if you want to find out how to do it, we're happy to partner with you and come up with innovative and creative ways to make sure you are injecting equity into your supply chain.
Now, how do people find you and learn more about the Black Chamber of Commerce, Broward Black Chamber of Commerce?
Okay. Well, real easy. We have a website, Broward County Black Chamber of Commerce, kind of our name right there. .com. We made it kind of easy, and you can find out about membership. Visit our directory to utilize Black businesses. If you can't find it, please call the number. I'm more than happy to help people find a Black business, even if they're not on our directory, to help them find that service. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Broward Black Chamber is where you can find us, and we're always pumping out information there. I lastly mentioned that we do have a resource page on our chamber website that kind of links you to all the procurement pages for the 31 municipalities, some of the anchor institutions here in Broward, and other federal and state resources to help you. So it's worth a visit to get those resources that we provide.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here, everyone. Make sure you go and visit the website. Make sure you get your membership submitted, because there's a lot of advocacy. I'm so proud of Shaheewa and all the work that she's doing.
Thank you.
Your leadership is tremendous, and thank you for being that voice in Broward County and beyond for Black-owned businesses. Legacy definitely wants to continue to support the Black Chamber, support you. I'll be following up with you about the National Black Economic Conference that is coming up on August 21st and 22nd.
Very nice.
And next week, for those who are, following us next week, make sure y'all better be tuned in next week. We will have Mr. Mike Finney, who is the president of the president of the Miami-Dade Beacon Council, which is one of the other economic development organizations here in South Florida. So we're going to definitely have a great discussion with him next week. So thank you, Shaheewa, for joining us. We have next week coming out on the 12th is the 40 under 40 issue for Legacy. Which would be Legacy Miami and Legacy South Florida. So please make sure you pick up your copy of the Miami Herald next week on the 12th, as well as the Sun Sentinel. And if you don't get the chance to grab your copy, you can, of course, access a digital version of the publication at miamediagroup.com. While you're at miamediagroup.com, please be sure to check out the political issue. I cannot emphasize this enough. Get to know your South Florida candidates. Elections are only a couple weeks away. However, early voting has started. You can send in your vote by mail ballots in your respective counties. You can go by early voting locations in your respective counties. So please do not forget to get out and vote. This is a very important election coming up on August 18th. So you have time all the way between now, multiple ways to vote. There's no excuse.
Exactly. It's critical.
It's critical, guys. So very important. Local and state and our congressional primaries are happening August 18th. So please mail in your ballots, go early vote, or go vote on election day. With that being said, please tune in again and join us next week at noon, and please share this video. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.